All right, it's up. It's a go.
All right. Good evening, everyone. And welcome to the Wednesday, September 16th, 2020 regular board meeting. At this time, I'd like to open the meeting, and Dr. Rock, if you could please call the roll.
Mrs. Gator,
Here.
Mrs. Moomin,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mr. Freeman,
Here.
Miss Mitchell.
Here, we are all present and accounted for. Dr. Rock, thank you earlier for graciously agreeing to do the Pledge of Allegiance for this evening. You can go ahead and get started.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are going to move into this evening's agenda, and bear with me as I share my screen. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Awesome. We are now at, I'm sorry. We're now at item 1.3, approval of this evening's agenda. Before we put the motion on the floor to approve, Dr. Rock, Mr. Jolly, can you let us know if the agenda stands good to stand as it is?
Yes, ma'am. It's good the way it is.
Thank you. Dr. Rock?
Yes.
Awesome. Can I have a motion on the floor for the board to approve item 1.3, the September 16th, 2020 regular meeting agenda?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item 1.3, approval of tonight's agenda, September 16th, 2020 regular board meeting.
I'm sorry.
A
May I have a
second.
second? It's been
I
moved.
second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Thank you, Ms. Barbara. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board. Next on our agenda is item 1.4. We need a motion on the floor to approve the following minutes: August 5th, the 2020 work session, August 19th, 2020, our regular meeting.
Madam Chair, I move item 1.4, the approval of the minutes for the following meetings. Approval for August 5th, 2020 work session meeting and August 19th, 2020 regular board meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
It's been moved and doubly seconded.
Good.
Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is the superintendent update. Mr. Jolly, I'm going to release control of the screen and hand it over to you, sir.
I have to change computers. Ooh. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You can hear me better. Okay, thank you. Okay. I'd like to thank, first, again, I'd like to thank the board and everyone for what a great start to school. But first, I'd just like to say thank you to all the teachers, staff, OC members, WEA, parents, and students for all the hard work they've done in this non-traditional start to school. Coming to school without, the first time ever, without students in school and figuring out a way to make sure that all students, Dr. Reynolds, a shout out to Dr. Reynolds, his hard work to make sure all students got computers. Our principals who assisted him in that matter, our great teaching staff who have totally adapted to the new way of teaching. Of course, they want the kids in school, but a big thank you to them. A big thank you to our assistant principals, a big thank you to our central office staff, our curriculum team, our treasurer's office, our HR department, our transportation department. If I'm forgetting somebody, I just like to say thank you to everybody because the work that you're doing is exemplary and meeting the needs of our students. Our OC members who have transformed into new roles, I'd like to thank them. They're delivering meals, they're helping students get on computers, they're feeding the whole district. Over 600 students a day are being fed food. People going to people, we got our culture coaches and going to people's houses and delivering materials, our teachers, our principals, everybody in our district has really stepped up. So before I do anything, I would just like to say thank you because on one team, one vision, one goal, all we got has been exemplified these first 3 weeks of school. And I think the Warrensville Heights City School community should be very proud of the people they employ to work here and the hard work and dedication they've done to get us to where we are today. So I wanted to start off with saying thank you because you never want to take people for granted in the work they do, but our people have really stepped up and really done what's necessary to ensure that education has continued in our city and ensuring that our kids have what they need to be successful. With that, I would like to, for the board and have a discussion tonight about the return to school plan. I did send to the board what the county sent out, their recommendations to return for students to return to school. And the recommendation was, the scenario 2 is that if the school district has been, or the county has been on the orange level for more than 4 weeks, that they're not saying it's a mandate, but you can bring kids back on a hybrid model. So this is our plan to bring students back in a hybrid model, not forcing everybody back early, respecting the parents who chose remote learning until January, but allowing the students who parents did choose to come back in August that opportunity. Now, in order for us to be ready and to test our readiness, this plan is in four phases. It starts with our smallest students first, and it can be adapted upon further discussion. But currently, the plan we have for right now is that we first start with our kindergarten. We bring our kindergartens in on a hybrid model, starting on September 28th. 2 weeks later, then we bring in our first grade students on October 12th. And this is only, the hybrid model is only like 40% of the students who elected to come back, who chose to come back to school. So this is not all the students, but these are the students who elect to come back. As we shared, when we went full remote, at the end of the first quarter, we will evaluate and determine if we bring the rest of the students back at the end of the first quarter. If trends continue as they are currently, grades 6 to 12 will return on November 4th. The election is on November 3rd. We would use the 2nd as a day to prepare, make sure everything is ready. The 3rd is election day, which is a teacher prep day or a professional development day. And then we will greet our students on November 4th. And then grades 2 to 5, and more discussion about this, but we do know we have the opportunity to go into our new building. If we brought them back on the 4th, it would be 2 transitions for this group of students. So they will go into Westwood, Eastwood, and John Dewey, and 2 weeks later, we'll move them into the new building. So this proposal is stating that we just keep them remote until after Thanksgiving. And then after Thanksgiving, we just bring them all to the new building, which will be November 30th. So this is based on the county remaining at orange level. If these things change, then we will make the necessary adjustments. We'll use the hybrid model. So that means the students will attend school 2 days a week, and then the other 2 days they'll be remotely. And then the students who chose the remote learning option, they will remain in the remote learning model option until the end of the first quarter. At this point, I'm open to any questions about the return to school plan. Any questions, concerns, thoughts about this plan to bring our students back?
And I know Mr. Roberts said that he did have some questions at the beginning of the call.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Jolly, first of all, your plan says, the hybrid plan says going 2 days and off 2 days. So what about the fifth day?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. I'm sorry, it was on.
Okay, well, my first question is, the hybrid model says that they were going to attend physically 2 days and be remote 2 days. So there will be a day of no instruction every week, or how is?
I'm sorry, there will be remote 3 days. I apologize for that. 2 days a week and then 3 days remote. Yes.
Okay, all right, understood. Also, is the election, okay, are we going to give parents the chance to renew or revisit their election, or will they be bound by the election that they made prior to switching to the total remote plan?
So at this time, we will hold people to the to the January date. We have new people coming, but this is based on staffing, based on our ability to bring people back safely. Those numbers are the numbers that we are using to determine staffing issues, because we have teachers who are designated to remote learning, and then we have teachers that's designated to that would be in person. So and when we did the initial survey, we did say that you would have to stay in, that you made that choice to January. And we've making our decisions based on upholding that survey.
Oh, and one more. So the faculty that will be dedicated to remote and the faculty that will be dedicated to in person, they will be strictly in that block. Like if I'm a faculty member and I've had kids in person, I won't do any remote learning and vice versa.
So there still will be some remote learning being done, because we do have teachers especially in elementary school, that's dedicated strictly to remote learning. So those students will remain with those teachers. The kids that come in remotely, though, teachers will be required to have remote lessons for those students on the off days. Okay. So they will have lessons for them on the off days. So they would be doing kind of a hybrid also. So okay. You'll do 5 lessons for the week. You'll take 2 lessons for that, or 3 lessons for that week, and then you'll do 2 in person.
Okay.
Mr. Jolly, can you reiterate again how we are going to hold the families accountable to what they initially elected when the survey went out? So if someone elected to be in the hybrid model, they will remain in the hybrid model. If they're elected remote, they will remain in that model until January 22nd.
Right. So we will again remind everyone of the choices they made, and prepare. In January, we will have, people have another opportunity to decide if they want to come back or they want to remain virtual. We're committed to having the virtual model for the entire school year. So that will always be an option for our parents to stay virtual. But we do want the opportunity for it, as the conditions improve on the ground, to bring our students back to school. Many faculty members have asked when they're coming back, they're ready for them to come back. They understand the challenges that it faces, especially with our younger students. And that's why we are phasing in our younger students first. And we just want to make sure that we do it safely. We want to make sure that we do it thoughtfully. And we want to make sure that we cover all areas before that November 4th date.
Thank you, sir. Board, are there any other questions on that topic? I do want to say thank you so much, Mr. Jolly, to you and the team for the continued work and the
I
perseverance.
think,
Madam
I
Chair.
think Mimi-
I'm
I
sorry,
think
I was,
Mimi,
I
Okay,
did.
if I could finish and then because I can't see everybody right now. Just let me finish what I'm saying. I do want to thank you all for the perseverance that you've given to this topic. I know it's been a very stressful time for everybody involved, but you all have done an amazing job looking at how best to bring everybody back to school in a very safe manner. I'll stop so Mimi can go ahead and ask her questions.
I got a question too.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, mine was just a simple question. At this point, do you know what the ratio is going to be of students in the classroom using this hybrid method?
Yeah, so in kindergarten, it's going to be less than 10 per day. We currently only have 87 kindergartners registered at this time. We have 4 teachers for that 87, but the whole 87 is not coming. I think only 40 is coming at this point. So it'd only be 40 students spread amongst 4 teachers, and then we'll split them in half. So it'll be under 10 per class. Per day.
Okay, and then one other question. Can you just talk a little bit more about what the plan is in the event that somebody does get sick, whether it's a teacher or a student? What is the plan? Will we be shutting down? What are the circumstances?
So the plan is that more than likely if a teacher gets COVID in a class and had direct contact with that student, then that class would probably be quarantined because they were within 6 feet of that individual for longer than 15 minutes. The CDC guidelines states that it's 6 feet with 6 feet for longer than 15 minutes. So that would be a class that would be quarantined. There's no guidance to shut the whole school down unless it's multiple classes and multiple people that is affected by it.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you for clarifying.
So I guess my kind of piggybacking on that question, nothing is shifting from what you initially shared with us relative to the protocols that are to be followed in the event that there is an outbreak somewhere.
No, and there's been other schools that had people with COVID, and the people who've been within those distances of that, and that would be a class if it's a classroom teacher, would be quarantined. It was a principal and mentor that had COVID, and the school wasn't shut down. So
right. Thank you, sir. Ray, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Superintendent Jolly, as a board member Earl said, are you looking at possibly doing another survey in January? I know you said to the 22nd, but.
Yes, we will. We definitely will do another survey because we did have people commit to for the whole first semester. So at this time, we would start the survey probably early January to get that information in preparation for the 22nd. I do want to add, like if a student does get sick in school, that we do have isolation rooms for people who are symptomatic. So if a student gets a temperature or feels sick, then we will immediately isolate them out the way. Every school does have that room available.
All right. And Mimi,
And
you have
one-
one more. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ray.
And we had a screen, we do have a screen every day coming in with temperatures. So that is something every school has, even the rec.
Superintendent Jolly, for the 3 weeks now with the virtual, have you got feedback from the educators or any of the staff? How are they liking the 3 weeks that we've been doing the virtual?
So the feedback I've received is that, it's challenging. A lot of staff members, wish the kids were in school, but everybody's making the best of it. They're doing the best they can. This is a whole new way of learning. It's new for students. We've bought headphones for students who, some of them are daycares or in places that are very loud. So we bought noise canceling headphones. So there's a lot of challenges that exist with the learning, but I think our staff has stepped up to the challenge, understanding that we can't have them, we initially couldn't have them in school, but everybody's making the best of it. So I think in my multiple conversations across the district, ideally people would prefer the students in the buildings, but everybody's making the best of the situation right now.
Thank you so much.
Mimi, go
That's it,
ahead
ma'am.
with your question, please, ma'am. You're on mute.
I
There you go.
apologize.
That's
All
okay.
right. I sat in on the town hall today with OSBA. One of the things that they talked about was student mask exemptions. So I know we've got our mask policy. Have we communicated, or do we have a number of students that have requested exemptions, staff for that matter too? And do we have a student mask exemption form that we're going to be using?
So this is the first I'm hearing of a mask exemption form.
Okay.
We've required everyone to wear masks. Inside of your classroom, you don't have to wear it, but in
Okay.
common areas, you do. We
Okay.
have not had too much pushback on wearing the mask. Our students who are in school, our special needs students that are in school, and others are wearing their masks. But that is something I'll look into, the mask exemption form.
Yeah, my thought is, if someone is needing an exemption, more than likely, they're not going to be sending their students to school, but you never know. So if you want, I can see if I can get some more information from OSBA on it.
Yeah, I would appreciate that, because we might have a case where that might have that has come up as a case. So
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions on this topic?
Yes.
Is
One
that a
more.
yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Joy, I would like to double back on the quarantine issue. For example, if a whole class were to quarantine, and has it been explored? Quarantine, would that consist of the students going remote for that time frame, or would there just be no instruction for that time frame?
Yeah, we will go remote during that time, 100%. Yeah, their instruction won't stop. They won't be out of school at all.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Jolly, the floor is yours.
I have a comment,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
and it's just a comment. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Jolly, because I'm just so happy to see that the kindergarten and the first graders are going to start the school. One thing, if you know anything about young kids, is they need consistency. And I know the majority of them would rather be in school every day instead of 2 days. But that's a start. I'm just happy that we have started. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, they all can come back. So again, thank you for your effort. Thank your staff for their effort. And thanks so much for having the building safe and ready for our children. That's it.
Ma'am, we're gonna continue. Every day is a struggle, but we're gonna do what we have to make sure it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to give an update on the construction, where we are in relation to the middle high school. As you can see, we have our baseball fields have been demolished. So they're totally gone. There's fencing all around there now, if you go back there now. The stadium, the first picture is the actual taking down of the visitors part of the stadium. And then the second picture is a picture of the whole stadium gone. So as you can see, there is nothing there left but the concession stand. That is still there. And I'll probably have that done by Friday. The new school, here's the front of the new school. And as you can see, we have the Warrensville Heights Elementary School, which the board agreed to vote on. And then as you come down Clarkwood, you can't see it now because it's in construction, but we have our home of the Tigers, which is prominently placed in the back of the building. So I think that these are good representations of the work that this board has done and accomplished on Clarkwood Drive. Sure, 5 years ago, you had a tore down library and you had Randallwood that was boarded up, and now you have this beautiful facility that is getting ready for our great scholars. Our marquee is in, so that just came also. So that is the front of the building, the Warrensville Heights Elementary School. There'll be a sign on, there'll be a sign on top of there that says Warrensville Heights Elementary School once it's completed. And then we have put in all new sidewalks. The board put in all new sidewalks in front of Randallwood. So the whole area would be brand new, street and sidewalks. Classroom furniture has started to arrive. So we have furniture coming in the building. It's getting to be real exciting. You can see everything is movable, so everything has wheels, which will allow our teachers a lot of flexibility. And that's why we want them to come back to the new school, grades 2 to 5, instead of going to the old school. Just going, we only have one move, we just move them all together. Now we do have to, and I want to bring it to the board first before we took it to anybody else, just get your opinions and approvals before, we take it to the people, but just bringing them to the new school, I think would be the best way and best route. And then this is the pre-K program, the pre-K playground. So that is in a protected area. It'll be a big fence in the back where the pre-K kids have their own pre-K and kindergarten share the playground. That's enclosed. And the last item I want to talk about is this is the emergency levy. This is the fact sheet that we will be sending out next week to all voters. This is just basically saying that issue 76 is not, it's the renewal of emergency levy. It shares, and we wanted to put questions on there that people might ask in the community, like, didn't we just pass a levy? Because that would be the first thing someone asks. And yeah, they did. They just passed the levy, but that levy was to build a new middle high school. This levy is one that that's been passed every 5 years since 1990, and it generates $1.8 million. And then we want to just share some of our accomplishments so that people don't think that we are just using the money frivolously, that we're actually using the resources to benefit. So you see all the accomplishments that we made in these 5 years since the levy was passed the last time. And then, the last question, let me be sure, no new taxes. And we want to clarify there's no new taxes, no, not a penny more for any taxpayer in the community. So this is our fact sheet. This is not campaign literature at all. It's just information that's sharing what the levy does, how much it costs, and then just sharing some things about the district. Again, that concludes my report. And I'm open to any questions. Any questions?
Board, are there any questions? Everyone's shaking their head no. So we will thank you again for the information, Mr. Jolly. And that fact sheet looks great. Will the fact sheet, since it is information only, be able to go on the district website?
We actually can mail it. It could be a mailer to all our constituents. It's information that we're sending out, just like we send out our calendar or anything else. So that's informational. We're not asking anybody to vote for it.
Right.
We're just giving people information.
Correct.
It could go on the website. We're okay with that because it's
Yeah.
facts.
Yep. Yeah, I know anytime we ask for a yes vote, that then has to be managed through the bond campaign.
Right.
So yeah, this is just information that the district is able to share to show the importance of needing that levy.
And then the bond campaign committee will be sending out information to the board about a meeting that will occur next week to start the campaign officially.
That'll be the levy campaign.
Levy
Right.
campaign.
So no meetings have happened at this point.
We're just getting the information together.
All right, we are on item 1.6. Dr. Rock, your update.
Let me pull
Thank
up
you.
this.
Mr. Jolly's pulling it up.
All right.
Okay. Luckily, my presentation tonight is only 9 slides, but it's the culmination of the last 2 months of working on the budget to get it going and get all the numbers and projections and all the information for these documents. You could go to the next slide, please. So the permanent appropriations and certificate of resources, that's up for board approval tonight. The permanent appropriations, these set the budget for the school year. And it is due to the county officer by September 30th annually, and this is Ohio Revised Code. Next slide. So just the summary cover page that I provided to the board, the column on the left is the column that shows the total available resources for each fund. And those resources start off with a beginning fund balance plus any revenue that fund would collect. More than likely, the revenue will be tax revenue, state funding, and all other sources of revenue. And then the second column on the right is the appropriations column. That depicts the spending budget for each fund. And the main concept here is to make sure that the appropriations fall within or less than the total available resources. Otherwise, you'd be out of budget. The next slide, please. So some of the fund descriptions, just for summary, the funds that you're looking at, the first funds are general fund, and that does the majority of the operations for the district. This, we utilize our 5-year forecast for the revenue and expenditure projections, and then also current information that's come in. And also in the general fund, our phase 1 building finance is in there. Remember, phase 1 we did without a bond, and we used we leveraged the existing revenue streams, which is spectacular for our school community. The next fund is the bond fund. Now in that fund, that collects the tax revenue and pays for the bond finance throughout the year. And that one's used for the phase 2 bond finance and our old bonds. And then the permanent improvement fund is 003, and that collects tax revenue and it pays for the certificate of participation in phase 2, building improvements, building maintenance, and assets that have a useful life more than 1 year. So it pays for substantial assets. The next page shows some more funds that are on the list, the construction funds, and we talked about this a little bit last board meeting. 004 and 010 are the 2 primary construction funds. 004 is all the local funded initiatives. So when Steve Zanoni and Doug Myers talk about the LFIs, those are parts of the construction where the district made a decision that it would be best for the building to have that, but it's not included in the base plan with the OFCC. And we had a lot of meetings on that earlier. And the other fund then is 010, and that is the state funded portion. That's where the base cost of the building for construction costs are. Both of those funds use the bond proceeds that when we sell the bonds, that's the proceeds are used there, and then we make the payments for the construction. The third fund that's related to this is 34, and that's PI maintenance, but this is a PI maintenance required by the OFCC. And if you go back to our original resolutions, the PI fund will take 1/2 of a mil and set that aside, and then that accumulates over the years, and that's set aside for future maintenance of the new buildings. And it's just 1/2 of a mil, and it covers phase 1 and phase 2. So we have to take out 1/2 of a mil and set that aside. It's about $180,000. And we accumulate that to be used in the new buildings at future needs. The next slide shows some of the other fund descriptions. Fund 300 is the athletics program. And then when you get into the 400s and 500s, those are state and federal grants. They have restricted spending based on the grant language and purpose. So the biggest thing on the next slide, this is what's most important, is we have a balanced budget. Permanent appropriations for 2021 are within the current resources. And the general fund budget will be incorporated in the November 5-year forecast, which is coming up in a couple months. Then the last slide is, again, the reminder on the emergency levy renewal. The levy's up for renewal in November. This renewal will not increase taxes, but will maintain $1.8 million of revenue for the district to continue current operations going forward. And again, as we said, this levy is renewed every 5 years since 1990. And then the last slide is, again, it's no increase in taxes, and renewing this levy will help us to continue going forward with the educational program maintaining $1.8 million for the school community. And then that completes my update.
Thank you so much. Board, are there any questions for Dr. Rock? You're on mute, Ray.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Dr. Rock, when you do the budget that you got to send in, what is it, September 30th? You got to have it in?
Yes.
Do you have to show our COPS monies and the money from the bond from last year?
It's all generated, it's all shown in just that one line item for the bond fund. So
Okay.
they're all incorporated in there. So we have some COPS that are paid out of the general fund. It's within that budget. Some COPS that are paid within the PI fund, but it's all based on the fund level. So all of those line items in that form, that one page top summary page that I gave you, that gets reported to the county auditor, of course, in a very complicated spreadsheet that they have that we put all the information in. But that's the main thing. So yes, the COPS are in there, but they're not singled out.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I know in your cash rec, you put them separate, but okay, you answered my question.
Yes, that's so we could track them.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mimi.
Just a quick question. I'm good with everything that you presented with the appropriations. Thank you for that. When it comes to the cash reconciliation, I was looking at the technical term, I guess you use, is the FinSum report. And I see where there's a couple of the funds that have negative balances. Can you just explain how that works?
Yes.
An example I can give you is food service, 006. And I know that they generate their own money, but I'd kind of like to hear from you, exactly why that happens.
Any fund other than the general fund can run a negative balance throughout the school year. And the negative balance is based on the timing of when revenue is collected. So in other words, we put in our budget for the whole year for food service, but it's well over $1 million, but we haven't collected that much yet. So the FinSum is in an actual point of time, that actual cash balance. So we will run negative balances in FinSum, on food services. Then in particular, the 400 and 500 funds, because the grants, we have to spend the money first and then we submit for reimbursements. And that's why at the end of the year, we usually have transfers and advances. And an advance is when the general fund loans money out just in June, knowing that the money is going to come back in July or August. So yes, it's a timing difference. So every fund can run a negative balance except for
Okay, and then just one more follow-up question, since you mentioned the 500s, Title I funds. So we usually have to spend all of that money, right, by a certain amount of time?
Exactly. So
Okay.
last year's funds, we have to spend by September 30th. So by the
Okay.
end of this month, I'm doing final expenditure reports. And then as we spend the money, we have a project request where we request cash throughout the year.
Okay, and we're on target to spend all of that money, or are we going to be sending some back? I mean, because
Well, we
we
don't have
lose
to
it,
send-
right?
No, well, you lose them, you don't really lose any cash because they don't send us the cash up front. So it's
Okay.
just it's a reimbursement that you get as you spend. And
Okay,
it's very particular on the restrictions of the spending. So
right.
we always hope to spend as much as we can, and depending on the timing of things, sometimes you don't. And Title I in particular has a 15% carryover. So if you only spend 85%, they'll let you carry over that 15% into a following school year.
All right. And do we know where we are at this point with that spending? I know that's kind of a off the cuff kind of question. I didn't know if it's something that you track regularly or.
The state funds are slightly lower because it was challenging to spend that money during the COVID. So we're hoping that maybe ODE may come out with an exemption or a waiver to extend their spending. They've done it on a couple of funds already, but they haven't mentioned anything on Title I yet.
All right, I'm good. Thank you so much.
Oh, and then just back to Title I, a big portion of Title I is salaries and benefits, and that we have no trouble with spending.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rock.
Thank you so much. Mr. Jolly Board, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and take us back to the agenda. Thanks to both gentlemen for a good updates, and thank you, Board, for good conversation. We are now on section 2 of the agenda, and we need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda, items 2.1 through 2.4.
Madam Chair, I move item number 2, the consent treasurer's report and financial recommendations. Looking for approval from items 2.1 through 2.4.
A second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, are there any additional questions?
No.
All right, Mr. Jolly, Dr. Rock, any additional comments before we take this to a vote?
No,
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
You're on mute, Ms.
Barbara.
Barbara.
oh, you're still on mute, Mrs.
Barbara.
Moomin.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Board. Next on the agenda is section 3, and we need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certified staff, and this would be items 3.1 through 3.6.
Madam Chair, I move item number 3, the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action certified staff. We're looking for items 3.1 through 3.6.
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, the floor is open for questions, comments. Is there-
I do have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Which number, so I can go there?
3 point, on section 3?
Yep, which
Yep,
number?
3.4, personal service contract. Is that the same gentleman that was there before?
yes, it is. It's the same person that's there before.
Okay, because I thought you had said at one point he wasn't coming back.
Yeah, so what happened was he didn't come, he had to resign the position because he could not commit full time. With these guys being firemen, there's often times where they can't come or whatever. So we always have to have someone available
Okay,
for when they're not available to teach the course.
okay, all right, thank you. And then the other question that I wanted to ask is about the personal service contract that's coming out of the wellness fund. Could you expand on what this individual's going to be doing a little bit more? How frequently? Is it all virtual? Just any
Well,
additional information.
Yeah, she worked with us last year. This year, I believe it's not going to be virtual. It's starting off virtual because of the COVID.
Okay.
But Miss Deneen Gooseby is and I can send her resume to the board. She was responsible for social emotional learning in Cleveland. The entire program that was implemented in Cleveland, all 106 schools. She has an in-depth knowledge of helping teachers, helping build relationships, helping and in this case, helping our culture coaches, two of them, who don't have a lot of training in I want to say the proper techniques. They know how to build relationships with students, but she's going to give them the rest of it of how to cultivate those relationships, how to connect the teachers with the students, how to connect the parents with the teachers, and that's what her specialty is. So what she would do is work with all our staff and people to work with to build on the social emotional learning. She's going to do PD sessions. I do not know the schedule, so I will, once I get the schedule, I'll forward it to the board. But I worked closely with her in the past. She did help us last year tremendously, and her product and her knowledge and wisdom is something that our two culture coaches and some of our principals could definitely benefit from.
Well, I think that's great. I appreciate you giving a little bit more insight on that. You know, culture and climate was one of the things that we were tasked with as part of our strategic plan. So I'm glad to know that this individual has been able to help us with that.
And
That's all I have.
And we want those culture coaches, though, we want them to be a bridge between the teachers and the parents, and a bridge between the students and the teachers. So that if they can break down any barriers of communication or misunderstanding, that we want those broke down. I can actually say Mr. Johnson at Eastwood last year did an outstanding job with that. And you guys haven't heard as much of what we heard in the past, about these bad interactions, because we have people there who's bridging those gaps, who's providing the resources to our students, who's helping our staff understand the students, or who just helping the students in general learn how to deal with their emotions, learn how to deal with adverse situations. So I believe it's a great investment.
So you brought up something that I was thinking about last night. Like you said, we haven't really seen much. I know we're in a virtual environment, but at some point, if the board is agreeable to it, I wouldn't mind having her to come in and maybe just kind of share some of the things that she's done, just to kind of give us a little bit more insight on.
Oh, she would love to do that, and she'll do it virtually if necessary.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to hear
no
more
problem at all.
about the strategies that she employs.
Yeah, no problem. I'll definitely have talk to her. She'll gladly do it.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Perhaps we can build, part of our October 7th work session around more on that, the culture, coach, the role, expect, just what they're doing, programs they have in place. All right, if there's nothing else, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Ray, you're on mute.
Yes, Dr. Ruck.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on our agenda, we need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action classified staff. We have retirement of 4 individuals.
Madam Chair, I move item number 4 on tonight's agenda, the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action classified staff, looking for 4.1 retirement of the individuals.
May I have a second, please?
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, is there any discussion?
Really, really quick. I just want to say thank you to these individuals. There's 2 in particular that I knew from when I was an employee in the district. Sorry to see them go, but I'm, happy for them that they're able to go at this time, and that's going to be Joan French and Frankie Melton. But not to take anything away from Gladys Richardson and Shirley Bolden. I'm sure that they are all very deserving of the retirement. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on our on the agenda, we have need a motion on the floor for consent for the superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs. And that will be items 5.1 through 5.8.
Madam Chair, I move item number 5 on our tonight's agenda, the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs. We're looking for items 5.1 through 5.8.
May I have a second?
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, or excuse me, are there any questions or comments about any of the 8 items?
I don't have it.
All righty, hearing none.
Madam Chair, I do have one question. Madam Chair.
One question.
Hold on. Member Freeman said he had a question. Go ahead, Ray.
Superintendent Jelly, on 5.4, the extended day
Same question.
for tutoring,
Mm-hmm.
is that going to take place in what schools are that? That for all, or?
So that's gonna be it right now. It's gonna be all the schools, virtual Westwood, Eastwood, and middle school, and high school, all our testing schools. Currently, as of today, they are still testing students. The governor yesterday said that we still have to test students. So this is in preparation for us preparing students for those exams. Currently, it'll be virtually at this point, but prayerfully, if we get students back in school, we could do some face-to-face.
Do you think the state will have the mandatory testing like we do in April, or?
Yeah, I do. I think they're gonna test.
You said everyone gonna have it.
And I think they're gonna use it against us too, even though our kids are home because of the pandemic. So we ought to prepare for that.
Wow. All right, thank you, Superintendent.
Go ahead, Barbara, you had a question.
Actually, Ray asked it. Ray asked the question that I was going to ask about the extended tutoring. So the
Okay,
question been answered.
awesome. Board, are there any other questions? If not, I do want to say thank you to the team at Tim Lally Chevrolet of Warrensville for their donation that they did make to the school district prior to the school year starting. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. All righty, we don't have anything under our next several categories, which is unfinished business, new business. Dr. Rock, do we have any correspondence?
No, we did not.
All righty, any announcements, Mr. Jolly or Dr. Rock?
No announcements at all. We don't have any announcements. Just again, thanking all our staff for all the hard work they're doing. So they're just doing a great job, and we're gonna continue to work together until we get through this.
And get through this, we will.
We will.
At this time, I do want to thank everyone who has been online with us. We've had a nice steady audience this evening. And we are going to make a motion for item 10.1 to enter into executive session. So may I have a motion on the floor, please?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion for item 10.1 to enter into executive session to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee.
All right. So we will be gone for just a little bit for those who are watching, and for those individuals on the call who will be moving into executive session. Mr. Jolly, can you move us in?
Yes, when you
Oh, Ms.
get there,
Mitchell, we still need the vote.
I gotta vote.
And I
Oh, I'm
second-
sorry.
I
Right,
Place
you're
the
right, you're right,
second.
you're right.
I second.
Mr. Jolly, if you'll move us in, and then I'll text you when it's time to bring us out.
Do y'all got a vote still?
Yeah.
Doc?
Yeah, we have to vote to go into executive session. So Dr. Ruck, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. And again, Mr. Dolly, can you move us in, and then I'll text you when it's time to come out.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna make sure I don't go.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm putting all the people in that should be in.
All right,
It's gonna take me a second.
that's okay.
All
Take
right,
your time.
We are all still learning this new virtual environment, so we are just fine.
That's true.
all right.
Yep, we got it.
All right, hold on. No, I need to get out of here.
Okay, good job. We will need to, there's Dr. Rock. We will need to then go back into executive session. So that will be item 10.3. And we will move into executive session. So we need a motion on the floor, please. Oh, I guess I need to share the screen, huh?
Here you are.
What? All righty, there we go. If I can have a motion for item 10.3.
Madam Chair, I move that we go into executive session, item 10.3,
I
to
second.
consider the employment and compensation of a public employee.
Thank you. It's been moved, and Ray, I heard you second.
Correct.
It's been moved and properly seconded. We're going to follow the same thing, only this time Dr. Rock will ask you to hang tight. Mr. Jolly's going to come in with us. So before we go in, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Barbara, are you on mute?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. So Mr. Jolly is now pushing us into executive session. We'll be right back, audience. Righty, the gang is all here. We're gonna quickly run through, oh, I lost my agenda. Lord help me. Oh, here we go. We're gonna quickly run through these final two votes. I need a motion on the floor to approve the modification of contract for Dr. Michael Rock. That will be 11.1.
Madam Chair, I move the item number 11 on our agenda, consent the Board of Education recommendation for personnel for Michael Rock modification contract.
I
I
second.
second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. May I have a board, may I have
Most.
a motion on the floor to approve the board's recommendation for personnel 11.2 modification of contract for Superintendent Donald J. Jolly III.
Madam Chair, I move item number 11 on our agenda tonight, the consent the Board of Education recommendation for personnel for contract modification for Donald J. Jolly II.
I second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. I do want to thank everyone for a great meeting tonight. Again, Mr. Jolly and team, amazing work on everything that you guys have done with partnership with Dr. Rock since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, even back to your staying ahead of the game back in February of this year, Mr. Jolly. So exemplary work. I look forward to continuing to see the good work by your team. And I want to thank this board for the work, the effort, the time, the perseverance is put in, because all of this makes us better. Right now, I can't remember exactly which scripture it is in Proverbs, but it is true that iron really does sharpen iron. I felt that way about this board since my first year on here. And I feel that way in a good way, because as we continue to challenge one another, it continues to help each and every one of us individually and collectively stay as sharp as possible and do the absolute best, because at the end of the day, we are here for the children of this district. So with that, can we have a motion to adjourn the September 16th, 2020 regular meeting?
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn tonight's Board of Education regular meeting, September 16th, 2020.
And
I second.
it's been seconded. So Barbara, you trying to say something? I see your hand.
No.
Oh, because I don't want to miss you again. Thanks you guys for hanging in. I know it was a little bit longer than normal meeting, but it was a good meeting.
It was.
So everyone, have a wonderful evening, get some rest, and please
You
stay
too.
safe out there.
You
All right.
too.
Bye, everybody.
Take care,
Bye.
everybody.
See you guys later.
All right,
Bye-bye. Thank you.
You're
thanks.
welcome.
Bye-bye.
Where can I get these?